Hi friends! In patch 11.9b, Reroll Nerves has come up as one of the most consistent top 4 comps that has a great matchup into other comps like Draven. In this guide I'll go over what units to buy, how to position them, what items to prioritize, how to flex and pivot out of the comp, as well as how to play the different stages of the game, and then I'll go over an example game. I'm currently ranked in the top 100 of ladder, and I'm able to maintain a 70% plus top 4 rate with the Renewer comp. As you can see, my Lissandra top 4 rate is 71%, so it's a very consistent comp at every level of play. Renewer Opener is a super strong opener regardless of what items you have, because they tend to be too tanky for enemies to kill before they build strong items. They're also one of the best AP item carriers in the game, and even if you don't end up rerolling the units, you can often go fast 8 just by playing the Coven and Renewer board. You can usually consider rerolling the Renewer units and playing the Reroll Renewer comp if you have at least 3 copies of Vlad and Lissandra by Krug. Most importantly, you need to make sure that you have some of the items to support the comp. You need at least 1 tier and 1 rod in order to play it. If you don't have those, it's often best to pivot out, or if you slam a Shoujins, you can just use the comp to go fast 8 and then pivot into a Shoujins board, which is usually Heimer or Vel'Koz. You usually want to have decided by Krugs whether or not you're going to play the comp. If you've naturaled a lot of Lissandras, like over 6, you might want to consider hyper rolling before you hit level 5 after Krugs. Otherwise, you should just slow roll at level 5, hopefully with your Coven units in, so that you can play strongest board while you're slow rolling for your 3-star units. So once you finish hitting your 3-star units, you should be win streaking usually, because Lissandra is super strong at this point in the game. You want to make sure that at level 6 you play strongest board. If you can high roll an Iron at level 6, which is pretty inconsistent, Forerunner is definitely your strongest board. Otherwise, you can just tech in an extra assassin, which is usually going to be Kha'Zix, since that will give you the Dawnbringer bonus as well if you are playing Soraka. After hitting your Forerunner Coven core and 3-starring your units, you should be win streaking into Wolves, and you should be level 7. At this point in the game, you want to make sure that you play aggressively for HP, because other people's boards will start outscaling you soon. Once you get to level 8, you are usually pretty capped on your comp. You can tech in legendary units, which are usually going to be Heimer, who you can replace Soraka for, as well as an Invoker, which is usually going to be Teemo or Syndra, depending on whether you need to throw away assassins with Syndra. As well as you can put in Garen, who is really strong just because of the MR shred. If there are other AP comps in the lobby, you probably want to run Mystics, which are usually going to be Kindred or Rise depending on what you hit. And then if you have an extra Frozen Heart, Diana is also an excellent unit you can tech in to apply Frozen Heart to their backline, which can often win you a fight just by itself. The most important items you absolutely need are you need Blow Buff and you need Jewel's Gauntlet for your Lissandra, so you should always prioritize Tier and Rod if you don't have enough components to make those. After that, you can just flexibly make damage items for a 3rd item for your Lissandra, as well as prioritize defensive items and aura items like Shift, Redemption for your Soraka, and just like Dragon's Claw, Gargoyle's Stoneplate, Titan's Resolve for your Vladimir. Starting off, there's a Lissandra with Tier Carousel, which is an amazing start if you want to consider rerolling Renewers, or even just playing any AP comp in general. So in my first shop, there is another Renewer for the synergy, and I get a pair of Lissandras, so I think I'm going to have a really strong early game. And then after I end up getting my 2-star Lissandra by 1-4, I am highly considering playing Reroll Lissandra just because I have a lot of copies of it already, and I end up getting a LeBlanc from the box, so all I need is 1 more to get an early Coven synergy in, which is really strong. So I scout and I'm pretty sure that I'm committed to playing AP comp because I natural a blue buff. So I just slammed the blue buff, play Riven instead of Kha'Zix, because I can't make econ anyways. So I just want to play strongest board to be able to kill more units. Because I end up playing the Riven, it ends up letting me kill one extra unit, which is pretty nice because, 1 HP saved is 1 HP saved. Here in my armory, I end up taking a sword instead of a bow because bow is pretty not useful in this comp. Except for Titans and Shiv, both of which are like secondary. As I'm scouting the lobby, I do see that there's one other player with a 2-star Vlad and a blue buff Lissandra, and I want to make sure that that player doesn't end up rerolling the comp as well. Because otherwise it's not great to contest a comp with someone else. I take out the Riven to make Econ and I play Kha'Zix, who is a really great early unit because he usually ends up killing at least one unit. Here I see that that player also has an early Coven synergy, and I want to make sure that that player doesn't end up committing to rerolling. And here, before Carousel, I expect to lose just because I'm playing a pretty weak board. I want to get a Rod if possible, or a Cloak, but unfortunately there's only Cursed Rod, which I don't think is very good in this comp. So I end up just taking the Morgue because it does have a GA component on it, and it lets me play an early Coven synergy, which will spike my board hard early and save me some HP. At this point, since I have my Coven's energy in, and I've already played the strongest members of the lobby, I know that my board is going to be super strong and I should probably win most of these fights at this point. My blue buff Lissandra just goes crazy with the amount of extra EP it gets from Coven, and she just completely destroys these boards. Similarly, the other Coven player is also beating most of the other players in the lobby and is on a 100 win streak. They do end up getting a 2-star LeBlanc, which is a little bit worrying for me because it does mean that they might end up rerolling the comp. Luckily for me, in this game, they end up pivoting out of it and I'm able to play the comp uncontested. Here, I win again because I have the Coven synergy in, so it does get me 2 extra wins and saves me probably around 10 HP just because I get the Morgana off Carousel, so it's pretty worthwhile. At this point off of neutrals, I'm pretty committed to playing the comp already just because I have 5 Lissandras natural. I hyperroll here because I have hit a lot of Lissandras and I really want to get 2-star Vladimir because that might help me win my next round against the other Coven player. Unfortunately, I don't end up hitting a 2-star Vladimir, and I end up losing this fight against the 2-star Hecarim and the full 2-star Forgotten team, which is a little bit unfortunate because it breaks my lose streak. Here I don't want to take a Negatron Cloak because there's only one other AP player in the lobby, and I high roll an Iron on 5, which even though normally I would want a slow roll on 5, having 4 Renewer is a gigantic spike in board strength, so I play in order just to save HP, and I'm committed to having slightly less efficient rolls on 6 at this point. With 4 Renewers, I just destroy most other players' boards, and I'm pretty sure that there's almost no one else who can beat me in the lobby. I'm really close to Lissandra 3 at this point, so I'm not too worried about hitting Lissandra 3, even though I'm rolling at the 35% odds, especially because I have a Nikos, and I'm happy to Nikos my Lissandra just because there isn't any other giant spike in this comp except for 2-star Heimer, and that's like pretty far away, so it's more important just to make sure I get my 3-star Lissandra. as I'm scanning the lobby, I also see that pretty much everyone else has slammed Draven items, so it's like pretty good for me because I'm pretty sure that the Lissandra matchup has a good matchup into Draven comps, unless the Draven is running a ton of Mystics or Redemptions. In order to play strongest board, I just end up taking a bow in order to slam a shiv because I have an extra tier on bench. I do want to save that for a possible frozen hurt, but since I want to just play strongest board now, I just slammed the shiv and it does help me beat this player, though I probably would have beaten them anyways. A little bit worried because I haven't hit my Lissandra or a 2-star Vladimir, so if I end up not hitting those units, it's pretty doomed for me. Luckily I see that the other player hasn't even 2-starred Lissandra, so there's pretty much no way that I'm gonna get contested, since it's not possible for them to play the Reroll comp if they've naturaled so few Lissandras at this point. I got into neutrals with a really solid instinct, which is really good for me, and I'm committed that I'm gonna roll down after neutrals if I don't hit a Lissandra naturally. So going into neutrals, I really am also a little bit worried because I don't really have the items. I only have a blue buff on my Lissandra, so if I end up getting bad items, she'll have no damage. Luckily, I end up naturaling a glove and a rod from neutrals, which gives me a jeweled gauntlet, and that's also really good because it means that I'm not gonna have a dead sword on bench as long as I can get one other glove. So here, I end up losing here just because my Lissandra isn't 3-starred and the other player has pushed levels. So I lose here, I roll down and I haven't hit my Lissandra, and that's like pretty bad. So I feel like I just want to roll down and make sure I hit my Lissandra. Unfortunately, I roll down to 0 and I don't actually hit it. So it's really unfortunate at this point, and I need to just make sure that I'm able to natural my Lissandra so I can Nico it immediately. Because at this point my econ is a little bit poor, and I need to be able to push levels soon, otherwise I'm going to get outscaled, so I need to make sure I hit my Lissandra so I don't start losing HP. Here I lose another round, which is really bad for me, and I am getting a little bit worried about the game, especially because it doesn't look like I'm going to be able to 3-star my Vladimir either, so my front line is going to be a little bit weak this game. I end up being able to, or actually I lose this round again just because there's a redemption 2-star Rise and Draven, and I lose here. Luckily, since everyone else is just playing AD comp, the Lissandra with tier is open on carousel, and the other AP player already has a blue buff, so I'm able to take this Lissandra and just immediately pop it off by Nicoing my Lissandra, so this gives me Lissandra 3, and I just slam Chalice immediately because I want to make my board strong as possible at this point so that I can just push levels. Since my front line is a little bit weak, it is a little bit bad for a lot of the matchups, especially the Vel'Koz matchup, because if my Vladimir isn't able to tank the Vel'Koz, then oftentimes my Lissandra will just get hit on a bad angle, but luckily, that player is weak enough that I'm able to beat them. I end up naturaling a Soraka 3-star, which is pretty nice because it gives me the 50% mana cost increase, which is really helpful. In this round, I end up just one-shotting his entire team with my Lissandra, and that lets me push levels. So from this point, I just want to push levels with as much econ as possible, since I pretty much count my board. I don't think I'm going to be able to hit Vlad 3 anytime soon. I get lucky here and end up dropping a GA from neutrals, which is really good for me. I end up teching in Lissandra because there's a lot of Draven players, so I want to make sure that I'm able to toss away the Viegas, and the Frozen Heart Carriers. And here I just one-shot his entire team again, and I'm able to pretty much just win streak now at this point. So I just want to scout and make sure that I don't get my Lissandra Viego'd. The Viego ends up stealing my Soraka before my Cinder can toss it away, but that's not enough to win the fight, and I end up being able to continue my win streak. So here I just want to push levels, find Heimer, maybe find a 2-star volley, 2-star my Ivern, and that's pretty much the most I can count my board. Looking at the lobby, there's no other strong AP player, so a Dragon Skull is pretty useless. I end up just taking the Heimer even though it has a Deathblade on it because at least it's a Heimer. So here I'm playing 5 Nuras just because my team is still lacking frontline, but I want to play Heimer anyways just because it's a great unit. Because my Lissandra's in a good spot that has an angle onto the Draven who has the highest AD on his team, I'm able to just one-shot his entire Forgotten Clump, which is great for me, and I easily take that win against the clone. I consider buying Teemo here because Teemo is really good, but I'm a little bit worried that my team is going to fall off, so I think that might be the difference between getting second and third place, so I end up not buying the Teemo, even though I definitely could have and would have made my board stronger. Here I'm able to win again against Karim's team because my Lissandra has a good angle to hit the Aphelios. I consider playing the Diana, but I don't have a Frozen Heart for it, so I end up not playing it. I hold that one just in case I natural a Frozen Heart here from the dragon, but I do not, so I end up just selling the Diana, and I just want to play full backline. I put in the Garen and put the Bloodthirster onto Heimer just to make him a little bit tankier, and also he does have a Deathblade, so it does give a little bit of value, which is nice. Here, even though my Lissandra gets Zephyred, able to just completely one-shot his Draven Clump, which is really nice, and I managed to take that win against Kiting despite the Zephyr and the Shroud. Looking at the HPs in the lobby at this point though, I know that there's pretty much no chance for me to go 9, so I end up just rolling down here to try to 2-star my legendaries and my Ivern. I just Nico my Heimer instead of my Garen because my Garen is unitemized and Heimer does have the Forward Newer buff, which is really strong, so having a 2-star Heimer is really good. Also, it just gives a little bit more backline access, which is probably the biggest weakness of the comp, that it can't really hit the backline. At this point, I think that I probably can play for first, just because I'm pretty sure that I'm stronger than both Kerm's team and Kiting's team. The Viego gets on my Soraka again, but the Dawnbringer buff keeps her alive long enough that the Viego isn't able to steal her and then immediately steal my Lissandra. So at this point, I take the Rabadons, which actually is probably a mistake because I didn't realize that gave Kerm a Shadow Dragon's Claw onto his Darius, which does end up letting him win the game. So from this point on, the Shadow Declawed Darius is just so strong and so tanky that I am not really able to beat it. Especially because I'm running the crit version of Lissandra, so a lot of her damage gets reduced on Darius since he doesn't get crit. I do try to position Garen so that the Garen will shred the Darius's armor, but I still end up losing this round, even though he's MR shredded. I tried the coven positioning and wonder if maybe that would work. Because I lost those 2 rounds against him, so here I just switched my team into the coven positioning, and I just ignored the chalice onto my Lissandra so that I can put it onto Heimer instead. I get a GA, which is kind of nice. And I just completely rolled down. I buy Teemo because I don't really need Syndra anymore. And I'm not able to find anything else, so I just play the Teemo and put him on the left side. So here, I make a mistake and I GA the Garen, but he doesn't even get a second cast off anyways. My Teemo is really effective here and ends up being able to kill a lot of units, but then even though he's shredded, the Darius is able to regen enough HP that he kills my team. And I might have been able to win if I put the GA onto Teemo, because he might have been able to proc Cruel Trait after Darius killed the turret, though I'm not sure. But the comp is really strong because even against a pretty capped Draven comp, where Kiting even has a fawn, I'm able to beat him and take second place.